Izzy, also known as Isabella, is a kind and cheerful hairdresser. She owns a small salon in her neighborhood. Everyone knows Izzy because she is always smiling, always helping others, and treats every customer like family. She gives free haircuts to people who can't afford them and always makes sure no one feels left out. One day, something terrible happens. A small fire breaks out in the salon. It starts from the microwave, which was plugged into a power strip that already had other appliances on it. Luckily, Izzy reacts quickly. She grabs the fire extinguisher and puts out the fire before it spreads too far. Everyone is safe, but the wall near the microwave is blackened, and the socket is burned. After the fire is out, Izzy checks everything and finds out the fire happened because too many machines were plugged into one power port. This caused the power to overload and led to a short circuit. She talks to her staff and explains the danger of using too many appliances on the same plug. Later that day, Doug, the assistant of the salon's landlord, comes to see the damage. He looks around and says that the damage will cost $2,000 to fix. He asks Izzy to pay the full amount. Izzy is shocked. She had been saving that money for a long time. She was planning to travel the world, but now she has to use all her savings to pay for the damage. Izzy tells Doug that the real problem is the old wiring in the building. She says the salon's electrical system is not safe and needs to be replaced. But Doug tells her that the owner doesn't agree. Even though she lost her travel money, Izzy is still smiling and cutting hair, helping her neighbors just like always. Prince Thomas of Livonia has lived his whole life in luxury. He lives in a palace, has staff to do everything for him, and never has to worry about anything. But Thomas is not happy. He feels like no one talks to him honestly. Everyone is polite and careful around him, and they only say what they think he wants to hear. He feels like he has no control over his own life. Every hour of his day is planned out on his calendar, and he just follows it. Thomas tells his assistant, Walter, to schedule a haircut. Walter, always busy and slightly clumsy, looks up the best salon in New York City. He tries to call Belle, a high-end salon, but by mistake, he calls a small local salon named Bellasime, which is owned by Izzy. Izzy is surprised when she gets a call asking her to cut someone's hair for $500. She has never been paid so much for one haircut before, so she agrees. She doesn't know the client is a real prince. When Izzy arrives at the fancy hotel suite, she is shocked to see Prince Thomas in front of her. She becomes nervous. She has never met a royal before and does not know how to act. She tries to be respectful and gives a small curtsy. She refuses to touch the prince unless he gives her permission first. Prince Thomas, used to everyone being either too formal or too fake, is curious about Izzy. She seems different from the people he usually meets. Izzy starts cutting his hair, trying her best to stay calm. While she is working, a housekeeper brings in tea but drops the cup by mistake. The tea spills on the floor, and the cup breaks. Everyone in the room is silent. The housekeeper looks frightened. No one helps her. No one even says a kind word. Prince Thomas just sits there and says nothing. Izzy watches the scene and feels very uncomfortable. She is upset by how coldly the housekeeper is treated. She feels that someone should have spoken up, especially the prince. But he stays silent, and that bothers her. Without saying much, Izzy puts down her scissors. She tells the prince she won't finish the haircut. She turns to him and makes a sarcastic remark about his expensive shirt, saying something like, "Nice shirt, must be hard to breathe in all that silk." Then she walks out of the room, leaving Prince Thomas with half a haircut and a lot to think about. After walking out on Prince Thomas, Izzy returns to her salon, Bellasime. Her staff is surprised to see her back so soon. They ask her what happened. Izzy tells them everything, that the client was actually a prince and that she left before finishing the haircut. The salon is closing up when the bell rings. Everyone looks over, surprised. It's Prince Thomas, standing at the door. Izzy is surprised to see him again. He says he's come to finish the haircut. The staff offers him tea and makes him feel welcome. He looks around and sees how close Izzy is with her team. He watches her laugh with Nona, tease Destiny, and gently help Lola fix a tricky hairstyle. There's a warm feeling in the salon, a sense of family. It's something Thomas doesn't have. After the haircut is finished, Izzy agrees to walk Prince Thomas to the metro. As they walk through the city streets, they begin to talk and laugh. Thomas tells her that Walter made a mistake, that he was actually trying to book an appointment at Salon Belle, the most expensive salon in the city. Izzy laughs and says she knows Belle. She adds, "They charge $700 for what I do for $30. Thomas smiles and says, "Well, I think I got the better deal." The next day, Prince Thomas is with his fiancée Lauren and her mother Ruth. They are going over wedding plans. They're trying to decide which makeup artists to hire. Lauren wants someone glamorous and well-known. Ruth wants someone approved by the royal court. Walter quietly suggests Izzy and her team. He says they're talented, reliable, and, most of all, real. Thomas supports the idea. Walter calls Izzy with an offer, $50,000 to do the makeup and styling for the royal wedding. Izzy is shocked. She talks to her team, and they all agree to take the job. It's a chance of a lifetime. Soon, Izzy, Nona, Lola, and Destiny board a flight to Lavania. They are excited and nervous. When they arrive at the Grand Royal Palace, they are brought before King John and Queen Catherine. The king and queen are kind but also amused by Izzy and her down-to-earth friends. They've never met anyone like them before. Izzy, with her big heart and honest ways, is clearly different from the people in the palace. But she doesn't try to act fancy. She stays herself. The royal staff watches curiously, unsure what to make of her. The next day in Lavania, the royal wedding preparations are in full swing. As part of the process, another royal assistant named Madame Fabre arrives. She is in charge of beauty and fashion at the palace and is known for being strict and serious. She has worked in the royal household for years and expects perfection. Madame Fabre asks Izzy and her team to show their makeup skills. Izzy goes first and does a beautiful job. Madame Fabre nods and says it meets the royal standard. But when Lola and Destiny take their turns, Madame Fabre is not impressed. She says their work is not refined enough for a royal wedding. Izzy feels bad for her friends, but Madame Fabre offers to train them. She begins working with Lola and Destiny every day, showing them how to use high-end products, how to follow palace protocol, and how to match royal expectations. At first, the training is tough, but the girls are determined to improve. Izzy decides to explore more of Lavania. She walks through the markets and talks to the locals. As she moves farther away from the center of the city, she notices something troubling. The streets become dirtier, the buildings are older, and there are fewer shops. She crosses the train tracks and finds herself in a poorer part of town. Even though the area is run down, people smile, greet each other warmly, and seem full of life. That evening, Izzy wants to go back and spend more time there. Walter hears her talking about leaving the palace and tells her not to go out at night. He says it isn't safe. But Izzy feels strongly about seeing the truth with her own eyes. When Walter sees that she won't change her mind, he goes to Prince Thomas and tells him what Izzy is planning. Thomas, worried about her, offers to go with her. So, Izzy and Thomas leave the palace together. They cross the tracks again and walk into the poorer parts of town. At first, Thomas is nervous. He's never been in this part of his own kingdom. But Izzy walks confidently. She talks to the locals, plays with children, and shares food from a small street stall. As the evening goes on, Thomas starts to relax. He listens to the stories of the people. He sees how joyful they are, even with so little. He notices how hardworking and kind they are. And he realizes something. All this time, he had been afraid of something he didn't even know. Izzy turns to him and says, "These are your people. They deserve to be seen. They deserve a better life. And you're the one who can make that happen." Thomas looks around and nods slowly. For the first time, he starts to understand what it really means to be a prince. Not just to wear a crown, but to use his voice and power to help those who don't have any. Not long after his visit to the other side of the train tracks, Prince Thomas begins asking more questions. The next morning, Thomas sits with his parents and says clearly that he wants to help the people in the poorer parts of Lavania. He says he has seen how they live and believes the palace should be doing more. Queen Catherine is quiet, but King John simply says, "It's not that simple." Meanwhile, Izzy is also doing what she can. She talks to the locals and encourages them to help each other. She tells them that if they have any extra toys, books, or blankets, they can leave them at the castle gate. At first, people are unsure. But slowly, things begin to appear: a teddy bear, a toy truck, a warm coat, a pair of shoes. One day, Thomas walks past the castle's guardhouse and finds it packed with donations. The entire room is filled with toys and bags of items for the children. He is moved by how generous the people have been. Inspired, he calls Izzy. Together, they load the toys, and even some unused royal furniture, into a van and drive it to a nearby orphanage. The children at the orphanage are overjoyed. They laugh, play, and hug the new toys tightly. Izzy and Thomas help carry the furniture inside, staying for hours and playing with the kids. It's a joyful day, but someone else notices what's happening. Lauren's mother, Ruth, has been watching closely. She sees how close Thomas and Izzy have become. She secretly snaps a photo of them while they are at the school together, laughing and handing out gifts. When Ruth shows the photo to Lauren, Lauren simply shrugs. She says she's not worried. She tells her mother, "Thomas is nice, but I barely know him. I'm more focused on my business right now." Lauren has a new idea. She wants to turn part of the new royal estate into a work studio for her company, which sells luxury purses for dogs. She says Thomas can be the mascot, wearing one of her company's outfits for publicity. Later that day, the photo Ruth took appears in the newspaper. It shows Thomas and Izzy smiling with children. The headline questions whether the prince is growing too close to the American hairdresser. The palace is not happy. Izzy is quickly called in and told that she must leave Livonia. She is heartbroken but leaves without argument. After she's gone, a deeper truth comes out. King John and Queen Catherine never wanted Thomas to marry Lauren because they liked her. The real reason was money. The royal family is in debt. King John made a secret deal with Lauren's father to help pay off what they owe. In exchange, he sold the land beyond the train tracks to him. That land will be cleared. The people who live there, families, children, workers, will be forced to leave and resettle elsewhere. The project is not for the people at all. It's a private deal to protect the royal family's image and fortune. Now, Thomas faces a choice: protect his family's secret, or fight for the people who have been ignored for too long. The royal wedding day arrives. Everything is set: flowers, guests, music, and cameras. But inside the palace, something is not right. Walter, the prince's assistant and longtime friend, quietly pulls Thomas aside. He looks serious and says, "Your Highness, I know you don't love Lauren. I've seen how you look at Izzy. You love her." Thomas stays quiet for a moment, then nods. "Yes, I do." Soon after, Thomas finds Lauren in her dressing room. She's calm, not nervous at all. He gently tells her, "Lauren, I can't marry you." She blinks, then lets out a breath of relief. "Thank you," she says with a small laugh. "I was hoping you'd say that. I don't want this either." They both smile, realizing they've been pushed into something neither of them really wanted. Lauren says she'll tell her mother and deal with the fallout. Thomas thanks her for being honest, and they part as friends. Meanwhile, Izzy returns home to New York. But as she approaches her salon, her heart sinks. The windows are blackened. The sign is broken. There's been a fire. Inside, everything is damaged. Her tools, mirrors, chairs, all burned are covered in soot. Her staff gathers, heartbroken. Then Doug walks in, asking Izzy to cover the costs again. But this time, Izzy is ready. She calmly says, "I already spoke to the actual owner. He told me you were supposed to rewire the place last year. You didn't, so this fire is on you." Doug's face falls. He doesn't say anything more. He just leaves. Later, the whole team sits together and talks about rebuilding the salon. But Izzy looks thoughtful. She thanks them all and says, "I've been thinking. I don't want to work in the salon anymore. I want to do more. I want to help people who can't afford a haircut, or a safe place to go, or even a warm meal. So, I've accepted the job as the director of the new community center." At first, everyone is surprised, but then they smile and support her. Nona hugs her and says, "We're proud of you, Izzy." Just as she finishes packing up, Izzy hears a sound outside, "Hooves." She runs to the window. Outside, Riding down her street on a white horse, is Prince Thomas in his royal jacket, smiling. He stops in front of her door, dismounts, and walks up the steps. "Isabella," he says, out of breath. "I came to find you. I left the crown, the wedding, everything. Because I love you, and I want a real life with you." Izzy doesn't hesitate. She runs into his arms. The movie ends with the two of them sharing laughs as they ride down the street on horseback. Izzy in jeans, Thomas still in part of his wedding outfit, stopping for gelato at her favorite street cart, free at last, together. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.